Well, pretty nice fish. As I was saying earlier, my father was in that World War II generation, grew up during the Depression, and he worked a lot, partly because being one of, actually there were 13 children born in the family. One sister of his, the firstborn, died as a baby, but you know, that happened a lot in times past, babies not living to adulthood. We have a lot to be thankful for with the medical and technology and all the medications and vaccinations and things. But I'm sure that my father, you know, as I was getting into my teenage and post-teenage years, he looked at me with all that long hair that I had. I had a shock of red hair, and it didn't, I thought it looked fine. I thought it was great, you know, it was, yeah, I was real hip. But my hair kind of bushed out as it got long. And my hair was kind of like cat whiskers, you know. The old saying, if a cat's whiskers can go through an opening, then the cat can fit through the opening. Well, if my hair could have got through the opening, then I could get through the opening. It was kind of how it was. And I'm sure my father looked at me and thought, what is the world coming to? And now, I guess that's true of every generation, because now I'm getting to the age that I kind of think that sometimes myself. There were these guys that I ran around with as a teenager, some different ones. A few of them ended up, I won't say too much about them because their brothers ended up marrying my sister, and so they're not really kin, but they're connected to me. But we used to get out, you know, we didn't have video games and all that stuff, but I can remember one day we got an old inner tube, an old bicycle tube, that was no good, of course, and it probably had so many patches on it that it actually looked like a snake when we cut it in the middle and made a straight piece of rubber out of it. And we well, broke that fly off on that limb. Busy talking. But we cut that inner tube in the middle and tied a long piece of tobacco twine to it, to one end, laid it on one side of the highway, stretched a string across the road, and we got in the bushes on the other side of the highway, right at a low spot in the road where you couldn't see very far ahead, you know. And we'd hide out in the bushes, and when a car came along, we'd drag that inner tube across the road. It looked a lot like a big old snake. It was really something to see. You know, people just couldn't resist trying to run over that snake. And there was this guy that I won't name him, but he had a brand new, about a 66 or 67 baby blue Ford. I'll never forget it. He saw that so-called snake going across the road, and he swerved over there and hit his brakes and slid for probably 40 feet. He did tear our inner tube up pretty good. The thing is, if I remember correctly, I think he slid across that inner tube and our string broke simultaneously. And he pulled over and got out of the car going to finish that snake off, found our inner tube. And he was a young guy, pretty good-natured fella. And he knew who it was because we were right in front of this other guy's house, right down the road from there, just a couple of 100 yards from their driveway. Of course, we had run by that time, But we always got a kick out of watching people try to run over that snake. Speaking of snake, two other buddies of mine, this was a few years later. I would have been probably 18, something like that, maybe 19. My parents had gone to the mountains for the weekend. I was home by myself. My two buddies, Lloyd and Vic, I ran around with them a lot during those years. They came by and picked me up. We were going to go out and cruise around, and etc. And we had just gotten out in the road good, having left my house. I didn't really know for sure they were coming. It was before the days of calling ahead, you know, and but I guess they were just close to my house and stopped by to see if I wanted to go. Anyway, I remember I had a Pepsi in one hand and a Pepsi in the bottle, you know, that's how they always came, in the returnable bottle. And had a Pepsi in one hand, bologna sandwich in the other, and I got in the back of their red 65 Chevelle. And it had it was something. It had like a 283 under the hood with a 4-barrel and a oversized cam. We thought it was really neat when you idle and that thing would just lope, you know. And it would run pretty good. Had a 4-speed in the floor. We had just got out on the road good, and there was a black snake going across the road. Vic was driving. Lloyd said, "Stop, I want to play with that snake." And so we stopped right in the middle of the road. No traffic much in those days then. Lloyd got out, started messing with that snake. Got to grabbing the snake by the tail, wouldn't let the snake get off the road. His passenger side door of the Chevelle, which was a 2-door car, the passenger side door was standing open. He was messing with that snake, grabbing it by the tail, sort of dragging it around the road, you know, wouldn't let it get away. That snake got so mad. Next thing Vic and I knew, Lloyd had slung the snake in the car with us. It landed between the bucket seats, right near the gear shift. It wrapped about 4 rounds around that 4-speed in the floor gear shift handle. Vic, who was driving, jumped out of the car. The car was in gear and running, first gear. And it took off, juke, 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 right down the road. Nobody driving, both doors open. Me in the back seat with a bologna sandwich and a Pepsi. Well, I thought to myself, I'm not going to stay in here with the snake either. And I kind of wiggled out from behind the bucket seat on the driver's side of the car, took off down the road, just juke, juke, juke down the road with both doors open. Nobody in it except the snake. It went maybe 40 yards, was just about to go off the road in the ditch, and the snake wiggled out the passenger side door. Vic and I took off down the road running after the car. Vic was able to get in, hit the brakes, knock it out of gear before it quite got in the ditch. I jumped in the car again. Lloyd was rolling around in the road laughing as hard as he could laugh. It tickled him so much. Vic was when he kind of gathered himself, Vic was a little bit perturbed at his brother Lloyd for doing that. And so he just took off down the road and left Lloyd laying in the road rolling around laughing. We went a couple of miles up the road and turned around and came back. Lloyd was still laying in the road laughing when we got back. Of course, no cars had come along. Those were the days. I believe it was the same afternoon we had gone riding around, and of course all of us, it was summertime. It was before cars were air conditioned much, and it was summertime. We had the windows down, and we got this bright idea that me and Lloyd could sit in the back seat, and we could lean way back, and our heads would be hidden by the back corner post on that Chevelle that was actually, you know, kind of wide going up that held the roof. Vic could lay down in the front floorboard and work the gas, and I could have my feet around the bucket seat, my legs around the bucket seat, my feet, my bare feet, I could steer the car with my toes on the steering wheel. We rode around like that for a good while. Every time we passed somebody out in the yard, Vic would reach up with his hand, blow the horn. That person would look and wave, and then they'd look again because it looked like nobody in the car. Oh me, boyhood pranks. It's sort of a wonder when you think about it that any of us live to get old, particularly the kinds of things I got into. And of course, me and my friends were we were worse at that when we were together than we were when we were by ourselves, you know. It's sort of like 1 and 1 equals 4 instead of 2 when you get 2 young boys together. And then you get about 3 of us together, and no telling what kind of mischief we'd find ourselves doing. Mostly harmless stuff, but I miss those days. I still got about a 14, 15-year-old boy inside of me now. He doesn't get out a whole lot. That's probably a good thing. But I'm sure my father looked at me and scratched his head many a time and said, what in the world is this new next generation coming to with that loud rock and roll music, that long hair? Those were the days. Didn't know when I had it good. I used to think as you got older, you know, everything got easier. And you knew how everything worked and you understood things better. I know less as I get older. And everything that still works hurts worse. Some of my closest companions these days are the rightus boys, you know, arthritis and bursitis, all of that. But hopefully, though I have fewer answers, maybe the questions I'm asking are better. Or maybe the fact that I realize there's so little I do know maybe enables me to grasp some of the more important things in life. GoPro, stop recording.